A new era for America. That's the vision that President Trump laid out in his historic address to Congress. It was filled with optimism and bold promises, and he painted a picture of a golden age ahead, one of prosperity and strength and renewed American leadership. But what will it take to get there? And how does Trump plan to make his vision a reality? Blaze News politics reporter Rebeka Zeljko wrote about Trump's speech and how it painted this picture of the lasting golden era for America. And she joins us now to break it all down. So, Rebeka, how did Trump's speech lay the groundwork for his vision for the American prosperity?
Hi, Jill. Yeah, so Trump's speech, like you said, was just absolutely riddled with optimism. And it wasn't just this address. I mean, his whole term, ever since that famous inaugural address, has also been extremely optimistic, touching on a lot of the same points, talking about immigration, the economy. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I think that the reason that it laid the groundwork so effectively is because these are a lot of policies that we've already seen him implement in the first 6 weeks of his administration. And so it was really great to see. And I mean, the reaction in the crowd was just as telling. You saw all of the Republicans really united behind the president and cheering him on. Of course, you also saw the Democrats protesting pretty much every single thing that he possibly had to say. But that aside, I mean, the reception across America was extremely positive. There was that CBS poll this morning that really recapped the feeling across America. The viewers that saw the speech last night overwhelmingly had positive things to say about the speech. And so, to your point, I mean, it really feels like America is in this golden age, and that was just even further emphasized by the overwhelmingly optimistic tone of President Trump's speech.
Yeah, we showed Caroline Leavitt earlier on the show and how she was holding up the piece of paper. She's like, Donald Trump wanted me to show you the CBS YouGov poll, right? Because it looks so good. You can see such a stark contrast where so many people felt so good about a speech. And Rebeka, this is almost unheard of, because if you look back at Trump in his first term, there was it's orange man bad, Trump derangement syndrome. So many people had so many bad things to say about Donald Trump. But this time, it's all different right now. Like, even the first 6 weeks, he's stacking up so many wins. So what is it like now just to see a Donald Trump that is getting positive, if not some glowing media coverage?
Yeah, to your point, I think that a lot of the things that he's praised for now, his candor and a lot of the quips that you saw throughout his speech, I think those were things that he previously was just absolutely ridiculed for. But this time around, the reception is far more positive. And I think that's because Americans endured 4 years of the Biden administration. I mean, when it's 4 years of rampant inflation, of mass illegal immigration, it'll really wear you down. And then suddenly, the mean tweets don't look so bad. And so I think that a lot of Americans, their attitudes changed, and it really was reflected not just in that CBS poll, but in November. I mean, President Trump won in such a historic fashion that it's hard to ignore the truth, which is that Americans are really warming up to this guy that the media has demonized for the last decade or so.
So we know Trump loves gold. If you go to Trump Tower, there's gold everywhere. It's going to be a golden age. So how is Donald Trump actually going to go through and fulfill the promises that he was making last night in the speech?
I think we're seeing it all already. I mean, the amount of historic executive orders that he has signed, not just historic executive orders, but also executive actions that he has taken in these first 6 weeks, I think has already laid the groundwork, whether it's, men and women's sports or really cracking down on the border crisis. I think all of these things have already been set in motion. And now that the cabinet is finally being rounded out, we were really able to confirm those last couple of nominees that were going to be, that were perceived to be the difficult confirmations. I mean, now it's just, we're full speed ahead. And so I think these next few weeks, we're really going to see a lot of the work that has already been done just taken to a whole other level.
All right, I mentioned Caroline Leavitt already once. Let's go ahead and listen to her take on the Democrats and last night with Trump. Let's listen.
The behavior of Democrats last night was completely disgraceful and demonstrated how severely out of touch they are with the American public. It was the most shameful moment in the history of presidential addresses in that beautiful chamber. In what was supposed to be a unifying moment for our country, Democrat members of Congress instead screamed at the President of the United States, who was just overwhelmingly reelected by their constituents, walked out of the chamber, and worst of all, they disrespected the American people.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, we saw Trump trolling the Democrats during his speech last night. I know you wrote about this. So can you give us the highlight reel of all that, right? It was so good. I want to go over this one more time.
Yeah, this speech, I mean, this was really Trump at his best. I mentioned earlier that a lot of his more casual mannerisms or phrases were sort of points of criticism in his first term. But this time around, I think a lot of people are really charmed and have warmed up to his personality. I mean, I was watching the address with my roommate while I was working, and we both agreed it really read like a stand-up set. I mean, I think some of the highlights were when he was basically doing crowd work with the Democrats. He called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, which is always funny. He was pointing. He was just doing all of the quips that we've all enjoyed over these last couple of years, and that now Americans are finally warming up to. And so, but beyond just some of the more humorous moments, I think the way that Democrats behaved, they weren't just sitting there and pouting at Trump's more casual remarks. They were ultimately disrespecting a lot of the American people, because there were a lot of moments throughout the speech that you would consider profoundly bipartisan. I'm thinking that the death of Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungary or Cory Comparatore, these were all moments where Democrats could have unified with Republicans and commended the fact that, these American lives were lost and that was a tragedy. You didn't see a single Democrat get up and celebrate, the lives of these extremely important Americans. So I think that was really telling. One of the most telling moments, I think, was when President Trump awarded DJ Daniel, the 13-year-old brain cancer survivor, with this honorary title of becoming a Secret Service officer, which was his lifelong dream, was to become a law enforcement officer. I mean, this is like one of the most wholesome moments in American politics that I've seen in my lifetime. There's nothing political about it. There shouldn't be anything political about it. And yet not a single Democrat got out of their seats and celebrated DJ Daniel. And I mean, even further, you had this host from MSNBC, Nicole Wallace is her name, I believe. And I mean, her remarks about the whole thing were just absolutely insane, even by legacy media standards. I mean, leave it up to the left to make this beautiful story about this brain cancer survivor, this child who survived brain cancer, to make it somehow about January 6th. I mean, it was really astonishing to see how Democrats reacted, not just to like the funnier, more humorous moments of the speech, but also the moments in the speech that really should have unified both Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, and one more thing that I noticed in obviously his speech last night, because they had the paddles with Elon Musk's name on them, right? Trump was going through and making fun of Democrats for their disdain for Doge and Elon Musk. So I would look at this and I would say, Trump's approval numbers are really good right now. And a lot of that is because of Doge and Elon Musk. So why would they go through this whole ordeal to make the paddles, to put them up, to go through this whole event?
I think Democrats are pretty much going through an identity crisis. That's the only way I can really describe it. I mean, they're sticking to their playbook, which has, I guess, worked for them over these last 4 years with, the protesting and the heckling and this sort of thing. You saw Al Green getting escorted. And this was all classic, behavior from the Democrats. But to your point, I mean, it's just becoming increasingly less and less popular with American people. And so I think at some point, Democrats are going to have some sort of wake-up call. If it wasn't November, I mean, I don't know what'll do it for them. But I mean, if they don't change their tactics, if they don't change their messaging, if they don't, sort of regroup and re-identify, rebrand as a party, I don't think that they're going to be having a lot of political success in the future.
Well, yeah, the House Freedom Caucus decided to censure Representative Green for his outburst. They even put your story up on their X page today. I noticed that and was very excited to see you there on the House Freedom Caucus. So does this carry any weight? What's going to happen here?
So they censured Al Green. If viewers somehow missed this viral moment, I mean, Al Green, he's one of the quirkier members of Congress. All the times that I've been reporting from the House chamber, he's always had these sort of outbursts, and he's waving his cane and he's yelling. That's kind of his signature move. And so he was escorted out of the chamber yesterday, which the House Freedom Caucus warned ahead of the address that if there were going to be people heckling or disrupting the speech in any way, that they would have been removed from the floor by the Sergeant of Arms. And the Speaker Johnson, also gave him another warning still, he obviously didn't listen and he was removed. As far as censuring goes, so censuring is more so just a formality. It doesn't carry too much weight. I will say, depending on the severity of the offense, the member could be fined or ultimately removed. That's usually grouped with some sort of additional ethics violation. In this case, he was just being disruptive, and so I don't think we're going to be seeing much more than a slap on the wrist. But in reality, a censure is more just like a condemnation on behalf of Congress or on behalf of the Republicans. And so we'll see that probably pass within the next few days. And again, it's more so a formality. It doesn't carry too much weight in terms of removing him from committees and that sort of thing. I'd be surprised to see anything beyond just this condemnation take place.